You go.
Welcome back to Tacket's House of Horsepower.
You want to start again?
Probably.
Okay, take two.
Welcome back to Tacket's House of Horsepower. I'm Sarah, and this is Steve. And today, we're going to make some noise.
Lots of noise. That's right, lots of noise. I think today is going to be the day that we get to hear Down N Dirty's 383 first fire off. So, a couple things happened this week. I filmed them earlier this week. There's a couple clips we'll add right now. I had an issue with ignition switch, 64 Chevelle ignition switches. Apparently, it's a problem. Okay. So, the solution, I figured it out. There's a couple clips, we'll put them in right now. But I got power. We got power. So you'll see right now. One of the issues I had this week that I had to tackle was the ignition switch. Okay. I did not realize that 64 Chevelle's ignition switches are now unobtainable. So unless you can find an original one that you can pop the lock cylinder out of and then get your new lock cylinder and pop it in, you're basically screwed. So here's what you got to do. Okay, so the 64 Chevelle takes this type of lock cylinder. It's got this little D-shaped bottom piece, I guess. That's the male part that goes inside the switch. And it's like a D shape. See it? Okay. So this is your 64 ignition lock cylinder. And I bought this with a kit. I think you saw that in the previous video. Now, this being the correct lock cylinder, I did not have an ignition switch. What I did have was a Nova ignition switch for like 64.5 Novas. And the plug was correct. The plug plugged right in. But the lock cylinder is different. See, it's got like a blade style straight bottom down there at the bottom. Not that D-shaped one. So the ignition lock cylinder would not fit in this switch. So I was screwed. So I found this. This is an ignition switch that will accept this style D-shaped lock cylinder, and it's like a universal switch. Now, the plug is different. That's the problem. This will not plug into your 1964 Chevelle wiring harness. What you have to do next is it comes as a kit. It comes as a little kit with little connectors, and it comes with a new style. This is the original one. This came off of the 64 Chevelle wiring harness. And the pattern is slightly different. This does not fit this switch. It fits that switch, but my lock cylinder doesn't. So that's going away. So you order this kit. It comes with this switch, everything you need to install it, and it comes with a new plug. And you follow the directions here. Let me open it up and show you. There's the switch plug. And there's your colors. You got purple and red and pink, and there's a green one there if you have, look, it says right here, ground only in bulb, used only to light up a temperature sending unit at startup. So whatever, if you got an idiot light temperature, then you'll have a green wire in that plug right there. So luckily my original ones were in good shape, so I just depinned it. Here, I'll show you. I just had to depin it. Okay. Right here. If I can just get under here. Okay. So this is the style plug they send you. So I depinned all those wires and I plugged them in. I followed the little schematic they give you. Now this will plug into their universal switch, and I should be able to put that in the dash, and we should be off and running. We should have power. And if that's the case, you know what we can do next. All right, so there you go. It's installed. It is the correct lock cylinder. I think with that spacer in there, it sticks out a little bit more than factory did. I don't know. I don't remember. But the other thing is the key goes in upside down. I think that's backwards, right? I don't remember. In a factory 64 Chevelle, did the key go in this way or did it go in this way? Either way. With this universal lock cylinder, the key goes in this way. And let's see if we got power. Oh, look at that. We have power. We have power. This thing's gonna light off this weekend. Oh, I can smell it. But anyways, what do you think? Not bad, huh? I was just itching to get this thing back. I was messing with it this last weekend and I didn't have the correct ignition switch. Oh, you could also pull the key out in any position. So that's the other thing. The key will pull out in any position. So anyways, that lock cylinder kit came in. I was doing my in the last video, I was doing all the lock cylinders and stuff, and I tried to put the lock cylinder in the ignition switch and I couldn't do it. And I was trying to use a Nova switch I had. It didn't work. I mean, it plugged in, but the lock cylinder didn't work. It was a pain in the ass. So anyways, crisis averted. It does work. You do have to do a little bit of wiring, but there you go. There's your part number. A little bit of wiring and you can get the factory style lock cylinder to work. I don't know. So now all my lock cylinders and stuff match. And did you see that? We have power. We have power. So I can't wait. I just want to jump in it and hit the key right now. But there's no fluids. There's no oil. There's no tranny fluid. There's no nothing. So even though I really, really, really want to jump in there and hit that key, I'm going to have to wait till the weekend. So anyways, I'll add this to the video I shoot when I do the startup. So I'll just throw this in somewhere in that video. But I think we're close. I mean, we're real close now. All right, just to give you a heads up, I still do not have the wiring harness that goes to the front that powers up all the lights and turn signals and horn relay and the main power wire that feeds the fuse box. So what I ended up doing was I ran a jumper wire. It turns out it's the top left pin on the plug on the right. If you put 12 volts constant to that, you will get power to the fuse box. So that's just a jumper wire right now, just to get power to the fuse box, and then the fuse box to the ignition switch, and blah blah blah. So right now the dash lights up. That's as far as we've gone, because we got to put fluids. We need oil, tranny fluid, we need coolant, power steering fluid. There's a few things we got to put in here, and then we can start twisting on the key and seeing what happens. So let's get started. So I'm gonna try something that is gonna be a little bit crazy. It's either gonna work awesome or it's gonna be a complete disaster. It's one or the other. So first things first is my power steering. Okay, that power steering box is original, and it was sitting outside for about 25 years. So when I took it off the frame, there was like rusty water and stuff that poured out of it. So I'm pretty sure that steering box is junk. But I'm gonna try and fire it up anyways. And I don't want whatever's in that box to get back into my new pump. So what I'm gonna attempt to do, and don't try this at home, I'm just telling you, I've disconnected, I put some fluid in the reservoir, and I plugged the bottom return line. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the return line off of the box, I'm gonna run it down into a pan, and we're gonna fire this thing off, and I'm gonna let the fluid pump through the box and then into the pan to try to flush it out. I don't know if this is either gonna work great or it's gonna make a gigantic mess. Either way, the box is gonna get flushed out one way or another. So I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Then I also want to disconnect this fuel line and put it into a bottle. And I want to get the first little bit of fuel and fuel lines, because I don't know what's in that line. So I don't want that stuff to end up in the carburetor. So we're gonna try and pump some of it out into a bottle. Maybe that'll, flush out the fuel line a little bit. Try to keep some debris from getting in the carburetor. So we're gonna attempt to do that too. So, and also that'll get us fuel up to the carburetor rail before we start twisting on, before we start putting fire to it, you know what I mean? So let's get started on that. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have Sarah start filling up the coolant. And what I like to do is I like to crack the temperature sending unit. I like to crack it loose so we can burp it. So you wanna get as much air out of the block and heads as possible. So crack this loose. She can start filling. Okay. Stop when you see coolant come out of there. Okay. And I'm gonna take the fuel line off. Start putting oil in it too. what I want to do now is I want to disconnect the fuel line, run it into this bottle right here, and what we'll do is we'll crank it a few times and make sure, one, we get fuel all the way up to the top, and then if there's any debris or rust or bits of rubber from when I cut the braided lines, you know, I want to blow all that out. I don't want none of that to get to the carburetor. So I hook it up like this and I run it into a bottle, and then we'll crank it until it looks clean. As long as it looks clean, then we'll go ahead and hook it up to the carburetor. So, babe, go ahead and crank it. Keep going. Keep going. All right, stop. Okay. Yeah, that looks kind of nasty. Go a little bit more. Okay. That looks a lot better. You just want to get the main initial garbage out of the line before you hook it up to the carburetor. Alright, that looks good. Okay, I'm ready to fire it off. I know we got fuel up to here. I'm just a little bit nervous because I still got that power steering line disconnected. So when this thing fires off, it's gonna pump power steering fluid out of the reservoir, through the box, and then out of the return hose. And there's a pan on the floor. I'm hoping it catches it. Otherwise, it's about to make a giant mess. It's very possible. All right, are you ready, babe? Mm-hmm. Okay. Here goes nothing. If I tell you, if you hear me scream, shut it off. Okay? This is gonna make a mess, I know it. All right, go ahead. because the fluid came out of the pump. I guess that box has got to be bad because the wheel is stuck. It turned all the way to the left, and really nothing came out of some nasty stuff came out, but not much. Like, it barely sprayed out of the return line. It kind of frothed up. I don't know. We got power steering issues. But other than that, it fired off. Okay, so that box has got to be, it's stuck or something now, because I can't turn the wheel at all. It's like, it's frozen. So I don't know, and barely anything came out. Don't look at the coolant. That's from Sarah. But the brown stuff is what came out of there, and it only a little bit came out, and then the wheel took off to the left, and it got stuck there. So now you can't move it at all, and the fluid's not going anywhere. Like, it's deadheading the pump. So what do? I don't have a new one right this second. I do have another used one, and it feels smooth. Like, I can turn it freely. It doesn't feel like it's locked up or anything. So I don't know, maybe I'll take this one off real quick, stick this one on, and then we'll try it again. I didn't want to rev it or anything because I was nervous. The fluid was frothing up inside the reservoir, like it was deadheading the pump. Like, the pump was pumping, but the fluid wasn't going nowhere. So I didn't want to just start revving on it. I didn't know if this pressure hose was going to burst or something. I don't know. So I don't know. This is my only option right now, is to try to throw this one on here. Otherwise, I'm stuck. So I guess let's give it a try. All right, Sarah's gonna get started rebuilding that box. I'll get the old one off. We're gonna try and switch them and see what happens. So this box, I held on to it. It was my buddy Matt's 64 El Camino. We did all the frame, suspension, lowered it, did an LS swap on it. And he did that Jeep, you know, the quick ratio Jeep upgrade. And I don't know, I drove it when it was done, and I didn't like it. Like, that real quick ratio Jeep box, it made it real jittery. Like, you move the wheel like a 1/4 inch and the thing took off. So I don't know, I don't like power steering, honestly. Especially if you're drag racing or something, like you want to get, the car gets sideways, or you know what I mean, you start skidding the back end around a little bit. I like to feel the resistance, you know, of a manual box. I feel like I have more control. Power steering, it's real easy to overcorrect. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of power steering, but because this car is a driver, I want it to drive long distances. I thought it'd be nice to put power steering and power brakes on it, you know, because it's a luxury vehicle now. So
It's my grocery getter.
yeah. So I don't know. Let's try and switch this box out. Hopefully it works. I don't know. Otherwise, I could try and go up and order one. I know they're about $350, so hopefully this one works. If not, we'll have to just go bite the bullet and order one. But I really want to hear this thing run some more. So we're going to throw this in and get started. Okay, the old one is out. Let's check on Sarah. She's almost done rebuilding. She's done a good job. Okay, well, that was fun. But the new reman leftover part steering box is installed. And I'm gonna attempt to do the same little experiment again, except this time we'll use a water bottle. This is probably a terrible idea. I don't recommend trying this, but it might make a giant mess. We don't know. But the reservoir is full, so what I want to do is fire the engine back up and then hopefully pump the fluid through it, come out that return, and go into that bottle down there. And once we have clean fluid going through it, then I'll hook the hoses up and we'll call that good. Okay, I stuck the hose in a bottle. Let's see what happens. It's either gonna work great, or it's gonna shoot that bottle across the floor and it's gonna spew power steering fluid everywhere. I don't know. We're gonna find out together. So let's fire it up, but I'm only gonna run it till the reservoir goes dry. So, you ready? Mm-hmm. Give it some gas. Okay, go ahead. That worked perfectly. Yes. It looks like diarrhea just came out of the power steering pump. See, now this is why I'm doing that, is because I don't want no gunky, nasty stuff to get into my brand new pump. So I understand that this is not the normal way you would fire off a car for the first time, but I'm doing it because I'm trying to keep it out of my brand new power steering pump and carburetor and all that stuff. So I'm doing this just to blow things out and clean things out. But that worked perfectly. Now I'm going to hook it all back up and then we can actually run the car. Okay. We're hooked up. So let's try it one more time. Go ahead. God. It runs good. Sounds good. No problems. No clanging and banging. No rods fell out of the oil pan. That's good. Good oil pressure. Nothing seems fine. It's time to go have a beer, I guess. I don't know. All right, well, it fired off. It's running. This Chevelle, like we were just talking about it right now, it was in our backyard for 8 years, 9 years?
No, like 7, maybe 7.
About 8 years, I think. I think it's 8 years. But that car's was sitting in the backyard for 8 years. And then before that, I mean, when I got it, it was just a body too. So who knows how long this thing's been sitting for? When was the last time that this thing turned key and fired up with its own running engine? You know, how long?
We speculate like 70s, 80s time frame.
We don't know. But a long time. This thing's been out of commission for a long time. And today it fired up on its own. So that's pretty exciting. And if you go back and look on our page, our work started on it about 8 months ago. So in 8 months, we took this thing from the backyard all the way down to a frame and put it all the way back together. And it would drive right now if we bled the brakes, and we haven't done that yet. So, I mean, it would drive if it had brakes. I'll get to it, okay? So, I just wanted to say thank you for watching, and please hit like and subscribe, and send me a comment, a thumbs up, any of that stuff. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you guys have been following this build. I think next we need to worry about interior. We need something to sit on.
Minor details.
We need brakes.
Minor details.
It needs to go to the exhaust shop. It needs to go to the front end alignment. So there's a few things that need to get done, and this car will be ready to hit the street. So
for me to drive to work daily.
She wants to drive it to work. I'm like, yeah, okay. So
that in the wagon.
She gets to take her pick. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we really appreciate it. And again, give me a comment or something. Say hi. I like hearing from you.
See you next time.